Hello, everybody, and welcome to Table Talk. For this month of January, we are learning all about plant-forward eating. My name is Joni Rampola, one of the registered licensed dietitians with Giant and Martin's, and I have a special guest today, Gail. And I will just say, Gail was on Table Talk, I think it was 2022, and she was my most popular guest that year. Had the most views. She's awesome. I am sure you're going to love her. Gail, you want to take a minute to introduce yourself?
Thank you so much for having me back, Joni, and thank you everybody for joining us today, this great cold day. My name is Gail Ferranto. I'm the president of Bona Foods, and we have been supplying Giant fresh mushrooms for over 40 years. So I'm really excited to be here and to be part of your family and for you to be part of our mushroom family. So thank you.
Absolutely. And we are thrilled to have you back. So when I think about mushrooms, right, I want to start off by just acknowledging like that's one of the main things that people think about when they think of plant forward. Mushrooms, they're top of trends, they're included in many hacks. So what do you think's behind all this popularity?
Well, it's a great question. And mushrooms are the original plant-based replacement. You know, they're packed with umami, they're packed with nutrition, and they scratch that protein itch better than anything else in the produce aisle. Um, I think the world had a love affair with some of these other replacements for a while, but at the same time, consumers want to know what's in their food. They want to know what it's made of and where it comes from. So mushrooms are as clean label as you can get when you want to replace some of that meat in your diet and really feel good about it.
Absolutely. So I know when you were here in 2022, we did a little show and tell. Want to see, if you could share with us some common mushroom varieties and maybe different ways that people might want to use each of the different varieties.
Well, I'd love to. And I brought 7 varieties with me that we grow
Ooh.
in Pennsylvania, that we commercially grow. And you can see them in my background a little bit. And then I'm going to just try to display them. I'll start with the most common mushroom, which is what we call the white button mushroom. It's got a little stem on it. It comes in a variety of sizes. And it's the ubiquitous workhorse, right? It's the mushroom you slice on salads. It's the mushroom that is put on your pizza when you order in or you take out. It's chopped and blended, so you can do anything with this white mushroom. Versatile, right? Simple. Our next one is our baby bella, and this is the white mushroom's older brother, if you will, right? It's a little bit rich. It's meaty in flavor. You can use it anywhere you would use a white mushroom, but you want umami to take a little bit more of that leading role. So that's the baby bella. Sometimes it can be called a cremini or a baby bella. So either one will work. Just a little bit more umami. And then our next star of the show is, mushroom plus, I call it. This is where mushrooms start moving more into the center of the plate. This mushroom still is very versatile, and it'll satisfy an appetite, a big appetite. You can grill them to replace a burger. You can slice and smoke them for fajitas. You can bread and bake them and replace a chicken cutlet. I mean, you can do a lot with this portabella. My favorite way to use a portabella is I remove the stem or buy the cap in the package. And then I put tomato, basil, and mozzarella for a caprese pizza. And it is just very satisfying to do that. So that's one way to use a portobello mushroom. So these are the common types of mushrooms. We call these agaricus. That's their Latin name. Are you ready for me to move on to the exotics?
You know what? Can I jump in with a
Sure.
question before you move into the exotic?
Yes.
So a customer says they love mushrooms, and sometimes the pre-sliced mushrooms, even though they're an amazing convenience and they save a lot of time, to wipe each mushroom clean versus cleaning a whole mushroom is time consuming. Do you have any cleaning tips?
I do have some cleaning tips. I recommend when you buy, the sliced mushrooms like these, right? This is the ones I think she's talking about, that you put them in a colander and you rinse them. The thing you don't want to do with mushrooms, you don't want to submerge them in water. because they soak up everything. So simply wash them quickly in the colander and let them dry out, and then you can use them. And that's the quickest way I've found to use to deal with sliced mushrooms and rinse them.
Great, thank you. Now we're ready to move on.
Okay. So the next mushroom that I'd like to talk about a little bit is the shiitake mushroom. This was probably one of the first exotic mushrooms to kind of come on the scene. And it's woody and it's smoky and it's rich and it holds up to just about any method of cooking. You can stir fry them, you can roast them, and they will remain firm. They're meaty, and we recommend that if you buy a bulk shiitake like this, that you remove the stem and you don't eat the stem. It's really the only mushroom we recommend that you don't eat the stem. So just eat the cap. And then our next mushroom, which is a new little star that has come online the next 10 years, it's called a maitake. I don't know if you can all see that, but
That's crazy looking. Yes, we can see that.
It's beautiful. It has a bold, complex flavor, and it demands attention in the dish. They're rich in umami. They stay firm no matter how you cook them. And you can prepare this in so many ways. You can roast them as an accompaniment to steaks. We've even seen chefs in the past few years, they take this maitake and they press it and cook it as a replacement to steak between, two cast iron pans, or they'll, remove all the leaves from the mushroom, and you use this whole thing, by the way, right? You use the core and everything, and they make a cheesesteak. They're excellent source of phosphorus, potassium, and magnesium. So you can feel good about more than just flavor. These are great mushrooms to explore with. Just a lot of fun.
So Gail, I'm going to stop you for a minute and ask you to go back to the mushroom that you showed previously. You got a lot of chatter in the comments saying, why don't we eat the stems?
Because it's a woody stem. And when we formulate the log to make this stem, it's got sawdust in it. Okay. And that's what is part of the growing log. So we recommend that you don't eat the stem. You can use these stems in stocks, but we recommend that you don't eat the stem. They're really very tough and they won't cook down, to be able to eat them and chew them.
How do you clean the underside of a large portobello mushroom, or do you clean the underside?
I say if you're going to clean the underside, and I think you're talking about like in these gills, you would just wipe it with a damp cloth, or you can run some water under it, but then just towel, wipe it down with a towel.
And then there's a lot of chatter about mushroom coffee. Do you have anything to say about that?
I don't have anything to say about mushroom coffee, but I use mushroom coffee too. So I love mushroom coffee.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Well, and a lot of these mushrooms, the exotic mushrooms that we're talking about, are part of the formulas in those mushroom coffees. If you look at the back of the bag of the ingredients.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Yeah. Are we okay to move on?
Yeah, move on.
Okay. All right. I have two more to show you. Okay. This is the new little star of the show. These are vegans' very, very best friend. These mushrooms are high in fiber. They're mild in flavor, and really they're full of potential. This stem, as you can see, right, is long, and we cut this stem and it can mimic scallops, and you saute them. And so this is one way, that we're seeing the king oyster be used. You can also shred this whole stem and braise it to emulate like a pulled pork. You can even cut them into shoestrings and deep fry them in lieu of French fries, and not feel so guilty about eating French fries because you're really eating, a king oyster mushroom. So just kind of fun to explore. There's a lot of recipes for king oysters out there right now. I've seen a ton on Pinterest. We have a lot on mushroomcouncil.com, sorry. And so, you'll find a lot of interesting ways to use king oysters. And then the last little.
Can you just repeat the name of that mushroom again?
This is called king oyster.
King oyster. And then somebody's saying that they have a, concern about salmonella in mushrooms. Is there any variety that may be at less risk than another variety?
Can we table that question until we
Sure.
talk about the best storage methods? And I think the thing with salmonella, we don't have a fear of salmonella. It's about how you store mushrooms. So I've never heard that about salmonella.
Yeah, to me, mushrooms aren't a common culprit.
No, no, not like some other things animal proteins that we know.
Yep.
And then our last exotic mushroom, I know this is crazy, but I want you all to kind of see if you can see it up close. Can you see that it looks like it's a little furry?
Yes, that's
It's
bizarre
got,
looking.
it's got
Doesn't look like a mushroom.
no. And this is a big one, okay? But this is called lion's mane and sometimes called pom-pom. These mushrooms bridge the gap between culinary and function. You'll see lion's mane on the back of those mushroom coffee ingredients. And these are reported to promote mental health and reduce anxiety. They can also be used to for like a delicious crab cake. They pull apart like crab meat and they saute beautifully. And again, you use this whole mushroom, right? You can kind of see it's clumpy, as I'm pulling it apart. And I don't know if you can see that, but it emulates a crab cake and it really is delicious.
So we sell that at Giant and Martin's.
You do sell it at Giant Martin's. Not every store has some of these exotic mushrooms, but if you ask your produce manager, they can get them in. They are in the warehouse, and make sure that they service what you're asking for.
Lots of comments. It looks like cauliflower.
It does. It does. But it doesn't feel like cauliflower. So they're the 7 varieties that I brought today to showcase for everyone.
Well, we love show and tell, and that was really interesting. So thank you so much.
Yes.
So you talked about many ways to use those mushrooms, and mushrooms to me is very common for plant forward cooking, whether you're replacing meat or in addition to meat. So what's one of your favorite ways to cook with mushrooms?
Well, I love to blend protein with mushrooms. I think it's easy to do, and it's also it makes for a better burger. It makes for a better taco or meatloaf or meatball, and it also adds moisture, and it cuts back on the sodium and cholesterol. So it's like a win-win. And we developed a product a few years ago to help you make that a little bit easier to blend. We started with this mushroom crumble. And this is a chopped product, 3 mushrooms, baby bellas, portobellas, and white mushroom. And it's clean. And all you do is saute it and blend it into your ground protein, your turkey, your ground beef, your chicken. You could even do it with your game meats that sometimes need moisture. Mushrooms will add moisture. And it is so delicious. And you can even do better on Taco Tuesday. You can, do mushrooms and your ground beef or your turkey. And the saying is a third mushroom to whatever ground protein you have. So it's delicious. And, this is my hack for the day, right? The crumble.
Yep. So I add mushrooms to my ground beef or ground meat, I should say, all the time. I love it. I think it's great. And you said it can lower sodium and cholesterol, but the big one, saturated fat. It actually lowers the saturated fat of the dish while adding fiber, vitamins, minerals. It's a great option to try. It's one of my favorites too.
And one other thing with this product, we talked about mushrooms in general. This is the only product that I recommend that you would be able to use it or freeze it. You can put this whole container into the freezer, and when you take it out, put it in the microwave for like 18 seconds, and then throw it in your pan to saute. Mushrooms don't thaw well, but they freeze fine. But this, because it's got air holes at the top, don't know if you can see that. This will let it breathe. And you take this off, you put it in the microwave, and I use these all the time. Freezer to my pan.
Excellent. Can you talk in general about nutrition and mushrooms?
I can try. There's a lot of variation between the varieties of the mushrooms, but there's some real basic facts. For example, this portobello cap has as much potassium as a banana. The maitake and the shiitake, both of these exotic mushrooms have more than 100 milligrams of magnesium. So that's pretty important to some people and what they're looking for. And then fiber. I mean, white mushrooms, brown mushrooms, those king oysters I showed you, eat the stems except for the shiitake stems. That's where you'll get more fiber. And then some of the other things that are, known for mushrooms are the B vitamins, the riboflavin, the folate, the niacin, the pantothenic acid. And then, of course, vitamin D, right? Vitamin D, mushrooms are the only vegetarian vegan source for this item. And they're known to have more vitamin D in brown mushrooms. So there's vitamin C, there's antioxidants, selenium, copper, iron, phosphorus, ergothioneine. I mean, I know that's a long list, but again, mushroom.com or ourbonafood.com, you'll find more nutrition information there.
And then somebody's asking, do mushrooms have any protein?
Mushrooms have some protein, yes. I don't have the number on me, but I know we can find it on the website for sure.
And somebody's asking, what's your background, Gail?
Well, I'm third generation mushroom family farm here in Pennsylvania. My mom started our company in 1975, and I'm happy to be here today. And my grandfather mushrooms in the early 20s and emigrated from Italy. So I'm proud to say our next generation has come into our family farm and our business, and I'm excited to keep going.
Excellent. Well, thank you. All right, I have a question.
Sure.
So I have seen mushrooms have been named the official ingredient of Earth Month due to their sustainability. What makes them a sustainable food? Like, can you talk about that? Why they're that?
I have a few things about sustainability. And the first thing is mushrooms, producing 1 pound of mushrooms, right? So this is a pound of mushrooms, right? A 16-ounce container, right? That producing 1 pound of mushrooms requires 1.8 gallons of water and 1 kilowatt of electricity. And it generates only about 0.7 pounds of CO2. And those numbers are really low compared to some other proteins. Some animal proteins. And for example, we can grow 1 million pounds of mushrooms in less than an acre of land in a year. So that just kind of puts maybe a little bit into perspective too, if that helps. And we use all ag byproducts in our mushroom growing medium. So all the recycled products from, cocoa shells, corn cobs, straw, hay, some poultry litter, we use that in our growing medium. So there's a lot of farms around where we are here in Berks County and Chester County. So we're able to utilize a lot of those ag byproducts where mushroom farmers are considered the original recyclers, if you will. And then when the crop is done, we sterilize that growing medium and it's being repurposed as a soil amendment for vegetable gardens, orchard, container plants, and so much more. I heard about, remediation for, many different things, environmentally even. Joni, you're on mute.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Yep, I see that. My
Yeah.
dog was barking. That's why I put myself on mute. So I'm still getting some questions in chat about cleaning mushrooms. Can you
Sure.
talk about, do I need to wash my mushrooms?
Well, it's a good rule of thumb to clean any produce before you use it. And really, mushrooms are no exception. As I said before, using a colander for sliced mushrooms or whole mushrooms is really simple. Just don't soak them in water. They really do absorb everything. And, a quick rinse and, wipe it will work with a damp towel. And if you see some spots of growing medium on these mushrooms, it's sterile, and you can take it off with a damp towel. Sometimes it can be pesky. I'll be honest. I've seen it too, but do your best. But it is sterile. It's really not harmful to you.
All
So that's
right.
what I recommend.
So earlier you said later in this presentation, you'll have some tips for storing mushrooms after we purchase them. Can we talk about that?
Absolutely. I mean, there's three basic rules to storing mushrooms. Keep them dry, keep them cold, and let them breathe. Okay. So when we buy mushrooms at the store and they're in these packages, I don't know if you can see these holes, but we have little holes that are maybe an eighth of an inch in diameter. So that's the let them breathe. And we recommend that you really leave them in this package when you buy them. They'll stay in your refrigerator and they'll stay, for a lot longer. The slice is going to break down, and it'll break down faster than the whole mushroom, but anything sliced will. The other thing is, if you're going to buy, some of these other mushrooms in bulk, and not in a package, we recommend that you put them in a brown paper bag. And that's our recommendation there. And then last but not least, and I think we may have talked about this a while ago, is when you put them in your refrigerator, don't put them in that vegetable drawer with other vegetables, because those vegetables and fruits will give off a gas and they will brown that mushroom a lot faster. So put them somewhere else in your refrigerator, but not with the fruits and vegetables.
Good tip. And you had used the word sterilization and getting a lot of questions about how can it be sterilized, et cetera. If you could just address that.
So when we have the growing medium in the house, it's pasteurized. Okay. And just like, you buy pasteurized anything, milk or dairy, we do the very same thing. And we do that with the peat moss and such. So we, bring it up to between 135 and 145 degrees, and then we take it down slowly. So, our growing rooms are very sterile that way. It may look like a dirty environment only because, we're using growing medium that's dark, but it smells really good after it's been sterilized. I mean, there's no smell here at our farm, during post that process. So sterilization is really important. If we don't sterilize, we won't get mushrooms to grow.
Got it. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's just.
And someone's asking if they buy pre-packaged mushrooms, do you need to double wrap them if you're going to freeze them?
I recommend that you don't freeze these mushrooms as such. I recommend that if you're going to freeze mushrooms, that you cook them and freeze them, because they won't freeze well in this container and in this wrap. Even if you wrap it as they're asking, again, I recommend that you do a quick saute and you throw it in, a container or some form that you would normally throw in your freezer. I mean, I did talk about freezing this, and this is perfectly fine because it's set up to do that. But this is not.
Okay, that's good to know. If someone is concerned about food waste, do you have any tips for them?
Well, as I said, cook the mushrooms. You can use them in so many different ways. You can use them in your eggs, in your frittatas, for lunch in your salads, or blend it. But I do recommend that, cook them and freeze it to use at another time. And don't worry about wasting them. Just cook them and then freeze them and use them. If you cook, all 16-ounce package, I bet you use them all week long in different things.
So I'm combining a couple questions. One is about your farm. Do you give tours? And the other part is Pennsylvania one of the main mushroom growers in the US?
Sure. Well, I'll talk about Pennsylvania because I love to talk about Pennsylvania mushrooms. 64% of the mushrooms grown in the United States are grown in Pennsylvania. So we're the largest producer. We generate a $1.3 billion economic impact for Pennsylvania. It's really important. We're the #1 cash crop in Pennsylvania. We just wrapped up the Pennsylvania Farm Show, and we got to talk all about mushrooms and talk about that. So I'm really proud to be, chosen to do that and also to share that with you. And then our family farm, we do not give tours, but I assist with the Kennett Square Mushroom Festival, and it's always the weekend after Labor Day. And we have a huge area at the Mushroom Festival with all of our growers come, and we put on a whole show for a growing operation so you can see what we do from start to finish. And it is the most attended event at the Mushroom Festival, and it's the weekend after Labor Day. So come to Kennett Square.
Awesome. So somebody is asking, what is the shelf life generally of a mushroom once I purchase it?
Sure. The shelf life of white and brown mushrooms are between 7 and 9 days, depending on if you're the sliced variety or the whole variety. These exotic mushrooms here, these are going to last a lot longer. These will probably last 14 days. They have a pretty good shelf life, and they're hardy. I didn't show you the oyster mushroom, did no, I did. They will stay hardy. These oysters might get a little tacky. So I would say maybe 10 to 12 days on these, and the rest can take it a little bit longer.
And then a customer is asking, are wild mushrooms that pop up on your lawn, are they always poisonous?
I don't know about wild mushrooms on the lawn, but we get asked those questions a lot. I would say I'm not a mycologist, and I'm not educated enough to talk about those. I'm sorry.
I would say don't eat them.
Don't eat them. I mean, I would say don't eat them. Yeah.
All right, so just diving a little bit deeper, what about vacuum packed shiitake mushrooms? How long are they good?
I'm not familiar with vacuum packed shiitake mushrooms, but if they're vacuumed, then I would think that they would last.
And then what is the shelf life after a mushroom is cooked?
I would say 5 to 6 days.
All right, well, thank you. So I know we're coming down on time here. So can people find more information about mushroom varieties and recipes? Can you help us find more?
Mushroomcouncil.com has a wonderful collection of recipes for every single mushroom I showed you here today. They talk about the varieties and the nutrition, and they get more involved in that, and also how we grow mushrooms to understand that, it's very complicated what we do with growing mushrooms. It's not a simple thing to understand. So, but it's fascinating. And also, we share that same information on our website at bonafoods.com. And that's on the recipes that I shared with you, that we shared with the group as well, Joni.
Okay, excellent. Is the nutrition value the same in a dried mushroom compared to a fresh mushroom?
That's a great question. I don't know, but I would bet it's pretty close.
Okay, well, great. Thank you. I think you answered all of our questions today, and we are so happy that you came back to share some of these amazing mushroom varieties. Some I'm sure very new to all of us. Of somebody saying, can you eat them raw?
Absolutely. You can eat white and brown mushrooms raw all you want. You can eat any mushroom raw as long as you like the flavor. Um, some of the mushrooms will change their taste will change when you cook them, especially the oyster mushroom, the maitake, and the shiitake. So I recommend that you try them both ways and see, which one works better for you.
Excellent. Well, thank you for sharing your knowledge and all the exciting mushrooms. And hopefully people try a recipe that we sent out already.
I hope so. That mushroom dip is really one of my favorites. And, if anybody has any questions, they can find us on our website. And I get a lot of those inquiries, and I answer them personally. So, feel free to reach out. Any question is always a good question.
And you're getting a lot of love in the chat. People
Yeah.
appreciated you and the information. So thank you so much for being
Yeah.
here and
Thank you.
sharing. And everybody have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.